Hi, I'm Melissa with Positive Perspective Animal Training, and I'd like to welcome you to my virtual dog training series. Caroline and I want to welcome you on this virtual dog training adventure. We're so excited you've decided to come on this journey with us. Dog training is such an important part of your bonding process with your pet. It's also a wonderful way to combat boredom. Dogs get just as bored as we do, and dog training is kind of like mental calculus for your dogs. It also really helps to teach them some important manners and make your dog a much nicer companion to be around. Hi everybody. So before we get started with our dog training classes, let's talk about some of the supplies that you're going to need to be successful. Alright, first and foremost, you're going to need plenty of treats. We want to have lots of reinforcements, things that our dogs really like, to be an incentive. We're basically going to teach them that whenever they do something that we like, they get something that they like in return. Now, it doesn't have to always be treats. Sometimes it could be their kibble. It can even be lifetime rewards. I love using lifetime rewards because it's a really great way of you putting yourself in a natural leadership position without having to use a lot of empty calories. But treats obviously are the quickest way to get to your dog's attention and to get to their heart, so to speak. Now, the right kinds of treats, you want to pick something that's very small, very smelly, and very flavorful for your dog. Now, dogs don't have a lot of taste buds, but they have a lot of smell receptors. So the stinkier a treat is, the better your dog is going to like it. We also don't want our dogs to get too full. Remember, we want to be able to do lots of different sessions throughout the day. So we want to keep these treats really small. Even these treats, which are already pre-cut and ready to go for me, I would still cut this into a few more pieces. I usually break it up with my fingernail. And our goal is really pieces that are basically about the size of your pinky fingernail. That's the perfect size treat. That also gives us lots of opportunities to reinforce quickly as we're working on different things, because different behaviors need more of a rapid fire style of treat approach, where if I give too big of a piece, I've got to wait for my dog to chew it up before I move on to the next thing. So soft, stinky, something easy to break up, easy to feed that your dog really likes. You can, of course, use a little bit of people food. It's true, a lot of times your vet is going to tell you don't use any kind of table food, but there's a couple of reasons why they say that. Number one, they don't want you to make your dog sick. So we want to feed things that are lean and healthy. Basically anything that's going to be healthy for you is going to be healthy for your dog. So some of the things that I'll use that are more technically people food, things like lean lunch meats, a little bit of string cheese, a little bit of chicken breast, boiled, something very low in seasonings, doesn't have a lot of sauce. Things like that are going to be safe for your dog. You also want to keep all of your treats, whether it's a dog treat or a human food type of idea, down to a very minimum amount. You really want to shoot for something that's really no more than a quarter of their intake in a day. So if you think about it this way, if you feed your dog normally 2 cups of food in a day, then you really don't want to have more than a half a cup come from treats, whether it's dog treats or human food, because anything more than that is going to potentially make your dog's tummy really upset. You also want to think about the quality of the treats that you're giving. So try to look for things that have, less sugar, don't have as many colors and additives. Any of that stuff is going to tend to be a little bit healthier for your dog. It's also going to help if you have a high-strung dog that tends to be on the hyperactive side. We want to avoid a lot of that sugar and processed stuff, just the same that we would do for ourselves, okay? So those are things to think about when you're thinking about what kind of reinforcements you're going to give. But of course, like I said, you can always use lifestyle reinforcements. Basically, anything your dog wants, having them accomplish something for you in return is going to put you in a natural leadership role. It can be as simple as when your dog goes to the door and wants to be let outside, asking for a sit before you open the door and let them out. Or things like if they come over, they look really cute, you want to give them some lovin', go ahead and ask them to lay down and then give them those cuddles and squishes. All those kinds of things are going to naturally put you in a leadership role where your dog understands that they have to say please and thank you and do things for you that are appreciated in return for the things they want. So natural rewards are a great way of doing some dog training with your dog as well. All right, let's talk about some practical stuff. So every dog wants to be wearing a collar, right? A collar is an important part of our dog's accessories. I'm a big believer in collars. I'm also a big believer in tags because you never know when someone's going to accidentally leave a door open or a gate open and our dog's going to get out. Tags are the fastest way that your dog has to getting back to you. Even with microchipping is wonderful and all of my dogs are microchipped, but let's face it, my neighbors don't have microchip scanners. So if Caroline gets out and is running around in the neighborhood, her dog tag right here is the fastest way for her to get home. I also like to put my telephone number on there. I also like to put any kind of information in it, if your dog needs medication, anything pertinent like that that'll let your neighbors know that you need your dog back as quickly as possible, especially if they're on insulin or have any kind of medical issues that necessitate them getting back to you quickly. So dog tags are your fastest way for your dogs to get back. So every dog should be wearing a collar with tags on it. Now, even though your dog is wearing a collar though, very few dogs can walk successfully on a regular buckle collar. And that's because when you think about a buckle collar, it doesn't really even out any of the energy around your dog's neck. It basically puts it all here in the front. So it's very common if your dog is wearing a collar and they pull to hear that choking as we go down the block. So let's talk about it. If you've got a dog who's a puller, then you might want to think about some different kinds of equipment. Now, if you have a medium to a small dog, a lot of times a harness is a way to go. And these are some common harnesses that I see all the time. A lot of very common ones where our dog has to, step into them with their paws. Or this one, which looks a lot like a very cute little piece of clothing that goes over our dog's head and has their straps that come around their body like this. Now, the thing that both of these harnesses have that are similar is where their attachment to their leash is. They both attach right here on the back, right? Now, I'm not a huge fan, if your dog is a puller, of having your leash attach on your back. The reason why is if you think about it from a physics perspective, having your dog's leash attach right here gives my dog their whole front chest area to be able to pull from. So if I attach my leash on Caroline's harness right here on the back, as traditionally do a lot of them, now if I'm walking around, I've got a rear Caroline back to be able to get all of her energy. Not a very practical way to go. I prefer the harnesses that have an attachment here on the front. Like this one that Caroline's wearing right now has a front attachment. This one is called the Easy Walk harness, and it attaches right here on the chest. It's actually super easy to put on, in a lot of ways a lot easier than other harnesses that require you to dress your dog. Basically, you're just going to put one loop over our body like this. The other loop is going to come right up under, and we're just going to attach it right here on our belly, right behind the arms. Now our dog, we've got a little bit of front wheel drive. If our dog starts to pull, we're able to turn their whole body around. This will make a lot more sense when we work on our leash walking segment, okay? But so harnesses with a front clip attachment are a great way to go. Another popular one is this one here. It's called the Freedom No Pull Pet Harness. I'll have links in my description as well, so you know where to purchase these on Amazon. This one, the Easy Walk, you can get at a lot of pet stores. Petco, Sentinella Feed, a lot of places like that. PetSmart carry them all the time. But the Freedom No Pull Pet Harness is also another good option. Basically, one part comes right through here. Same part comes right up under our chest there. Clicks just like a backpack around the front paw. This other part comes right around this paw and attaches. Easy peasy. What I love about the Freedom No Pull Pet Harness is it's got an attachment here on the back as well as a ring on the chest. So we're actually able to attach a leash in both places. If you want, you can even have two leashes. Some people do. This particular model, if you purchase it online, a lot of times will come with a leash that has two attachments. Basically, it's kind of a little two-prong leash where one attaches here and one attaches there. So now you've got total control of the front half. But you don't have to use it in both places, and you don't have to use two leashes. A lot of times just attaching it here on the front is good enough, because that gives us that front wheel steering so that our dog isn't able to pull us around quite so easily. And like I said, a lot of this is going to make a lot more sense when we work on our leash walking segment next time. So this is a really great harness for a medium to small dog if they like to pull, or even if they don't like to pull. It's just a great option for walking. Now, harnesses can still be used on large breed dogs, but I'll be honest with you, they're not always my first line of defense when I'm dealing with a large breed dog that pulls, because it still does require a certain amount of steering and tugging around on this front half, which for a big 60, 70, 80 pound dog can still be a lot of strain on your shoulders. So my favorite tool for a dog who pulls is a head collar. Now, when people typically see these, a lot of times they say, oh, Melissa, I don't want to put this on my dog. It looks like a muzzle. I don't want to put a muzzle on my dog. But if you think about a head collar, it's really not designed to be a muzzle at all. It's basically designed to work very similar to like a horse's halter. So if you think of a horse, which is a 1-ton animal, you're not going to put a neck collar on this gigantic animal and expect to be able to control it. You've got to have control of their head, because where the eyes go, the body follows. So the head collar kind of, in a humane way, utilizes this same idea. So the idea is we've got one loop that comes right around our nose and another loop that's going to come right around the back of our head. Now, when I first put it on, because I do want it to be a positive experience for my dog and I don't want my dog to feel like I'm muzzling them in any way, I always like to take a treat and put it right through my loop so that as we slide it on, our dog gets a chance to eat our treat. Caroline wasn't very interested in it, but that's okay. And then the other thing that's nice about the Gentle Leader brand in particular of head collar is that it's very adjustable. So you just want to adjust this loop, and you want it to have a nice snug fit. You don't want this to be, you know, wishy-washy and moving all around. We want it to be nice and tight. The reason why is it chafes if it rubs. So, and I know ladies, you understand this more than anybody, right? I always joke and say it fits like a bra. If it rubs around, it's very uncomfortable. So we're just going to snug up this loop here. We want it to fit nice, right, and snug around our dog's mouth. But as you notice, Caroline can still chew. She can still lick, she can still pant. I want her to be able to drink. I'm not trying to impede the movement of her jaws at all. The only reason I'm using it at all is because now, by having this attached here, if I need to steer her, I can just steer her very easily with very little pressure right here from her nose. And where her nose goes, her body is going to follow. So that's going to give me a much more humane way than yanking and tugging on her neck and causing all that distress, you know, to her vertebra, right? Okay, so this can come off. So that's another little option for a way to control your dog if you have a dog that pulls. It can be used, as you can see, on a small dog. It can also be used on a very large dog. Just by opening up this loop, I now have a big loop that will fit a German Shepherd. So these ones are great. This particular size I've got here is a medium, which is a great size for pretty much any of your average size large breed dogs, Labradors, Golden Retrievers, German Shepherds, Huskies. Pretty much a medium most of the time is the way you want to go. They do sell them in extra small, you know, large, extra large. Usually those extra large ones though I really reserve for like my Great Danes, Mastiffs, dogs that have really big heads and really big noses, okay? So this is, like I said, another good option for a large breed dog that pulls. Now, of course, if your dog doesn't pull and they're walking very, very nicely beside you, you can walk them on your buckle collar. So I'm not opposed to walking on a buckle collar. But if you're having any pulling, any tugging, if you're really feeling like you're water skiing behind your dog, then this is not going to be the tool for you. And choke chains, limited slip collars, martingale collars, those are also good options as well. The only thing with them is you want to make sure that they fit properly. So next time I'm going to include a segment when we get into leash walking about how to fit your martingale and your pinch collar and your limited slip collar if you have those options as well. All right, let's also talk about what kind of leash though. So sometimes people want to bring a dog to class on a one of those retractable leashes. I am not a fan of retractable leashes, so I'm going to ask for the time that we're doing training that you don't use a retractable leash. The reason why is retractable leashes, unfortunately, they tend to reinforce all the wrong stuff. From a training perspective, basically if our dog pulls ahead of us, they get more leash, so they actually get reinforced for pulling. We want our dogs to learn how to walk with a nice loose leash right beside us. So we really want to teach our dogs not to pull ahead of us and try to tow us down the street. We really want to discourage that towing. And for that reason, we want our leash to be nice and loose right by our side. A retractable leash is also difficult to maintain this in because it's got to keep tension on the leash to keep you from getting all tangled up in your leash. So it has to keep the line tense and tight all the time to keep you from getting tangled. We don't want that tension. We want to teach our dog not to pull into tension, so we want to have no tension. We want to start out with it really, really loose and floppy. So for that reason, I'm going to encourage you not to have a retractable leash. The last reason I also don't like retractable leashes is they're really dangerous, because if that leash gets tangled around your finger, around your hand, around your dog's leg, it can do a lot of damage if your dog pulls suddenly. Most of the time those leashes have a very thin cable or a very, very thin leash, and if that gets wrapped around there, it can cause some nasty leash burns. So they're not really the safest option as well. So what you're going to want for class is just a basic leash. Basically 6 foot, 4 foot, it's really your choice. I personally like 6 foot because I like to have some space when we're working on our stays, and I want to be able to get some distance from my dog when we're outside. So 6 foot for me is perfect. Some families will use 4 foot. That's fine too. You want something that's really comfortable for your hands. So I'm just a big fan of regular old double ply nylon. It's nice and easy to work with. It doesn't cut my hand when I hold it. You want to have something nice and wide too that will also even out the pressure, especially if your dog is a puller, because if you have a really thin, skinny leash, once again, the first time they pull you, it's going to cut into your hand. So you want something really, really comfortable. Double ply nylon is a great option. Some people also use leather. Sometimes I see leashes made of this type of a material, basically like a rope. That's fine too. Anything that's comfortable for your hands and nice and loose is fine for you to use. But we just want a basic regular leash, no retractable leashes at all. Now we also lastly want to have a place to put our treats. We want to have snacks and we want to be hands-free, especially when we're working on the leash walking portion. We don't want to be trying to hold our dog's leash and hold our treats and figure out how to get point A to point B. So you basically want to have some place that you can tuck your treats. Some people just always train with clothes with pockets, you know, whether they're side pockets or here, a front pocket is fine. I'll be honest with you, I got kind of tired of always having my pockets smell like dog food, so I went ahead and invested in one of these little handy dandy pouches. Some of the pouches have little clips that you can just clip them right onto the side of your clothing, just like this. This particular one I love because it's got a strap, and I can just strap it right easily right around my waist. Great option there as well. And it's got a place in here where I can tuck my treats. I also like it because it's got room for poop bags. It's got a space for my keys. So it's just a really nice, handy dandy training pouch. So someplace that you can put your treats. That's another thing that you really want to have. Okay, so we've got our leashes, we've got a good, nice collar that our dog can work with, we've got treats. Last but not least, you're gonna wanna have a space for your dog to work in. Right now, I'm sitting on this blanket. We're gonna be doing a behavior later on called settle, which involves us sitting on our blanket. We wanna have some place where our tush doesn't get wet when we're sitting in the grass, if you're working outside. I also use my blanket as a go to your spot. We're gonna teach a go to your spot behavior in the weeks that follow. So we wanna have a place that your dog can go to. It could be a blanket, it could be a beach towel, it can be a bed, anything. It could be their kennel. You know, you're training at home, so of course you've got lots of different options, but that's why I have my handy dandy blanket here is for my go to your spot. Okay, you're also going to want to have some sort of a toy, preferably something with a squeaker in it. That's also going to help us. As you can see, it helps for recall. It's also going to help us when we start working on drop it and leave it. We're going to use a toy, and having that squeaker in there is a great noise maker to get our dog's attention. So you want something that they're interested in holding and potentially interested in playing with. It can be a favorite toy, or it could be something brand new that you bring out for the first time. All right, guys, so that kind of covers some of the stuff that you want to have to get this dog training adventure started. All right, check out my next video and we'll get started. Hi, everybody. So the first segment we're going to work on today is settle. Now, settle is one of my favorite behaviors because basically you're working on handling skills for your dog. Now, why are handling skills important? Well, your vet, your groomers, they're all really going to appreciate you working on it with your dog. Your dog is also going to appreciate getting used to being handled before they have to be handled. A lot of dogs have a lot of negative association with things like having their paws touched or their ears touched, because the only times they ever get those parts handled is when they associate them with having their nails trimmed or their ears cleaned or going to the vet or going to the groomer, something unpleasant. So basically the purpose of settle is practicing these behaviors a little bit each day so that our dogs get desensitized and don't associate them with anything negative. So basically we're just going to make them associate them with hugs and kisses, treats, something very pleasant instead. So how you're going to start is you want to start in some place where you can sit comfortably with your dog. A lot of times I do this on the floor with a big dog, or if you do have a smaller dog, you can also be up on a sofa or in a chair. But a lot of times the floor is a great place to start. Basically, you're going to start out with your dog just right here in front of you. You're going to bring your legs into a nice V so that you've got some area to work in. Now, a lot of dogs, particularly small dogs, are really comfortable being flipped over and held like a baby already, because a lot of small dogs, we tend to do this to them just because we love to hug them and cuddle them. Now, if you have a larger breed dog, though, or an older dog that has never been handled this way, they might be a little bit uncomfortable in this behavior. If that's the case, then you're going to want to start slow. Basically, just start with something where you get your dog either lying down in front of you or possibly just here on your side. You're just going to start out by giving lots of nice, soft pets and talking to them in a soothing voice. I usually say something like settle or relax, and kind of think of myself like I'm the doggy hypnotist. As your dog gets really comfortable and very relaxed, and you'll know because their body parts start to get very loose and very floppy, you're just going to slowly start rolling your dog over onto their back. Our goal is to have them belly up as if they were worshiping the sun from your lap. As you roll your dog over, you're going to want to bring your legs in. We want to make a nice support system and a cradle for our dogs so they don't feel wobbly like they're flailing around. That'll lead to a lot of struggling and a lot of discomfort. So use your legs and your body as kind of a nice little cradle for your dog, and you can basically give them a body hug. If your dog is wiggly and flailing around, a really good place to hold is right here in these armpits. This whole section right here is basically an area of calm for your dog. I have a friend who's a doggy acupuncturist, and she mentioned that this center plexus right here is right where all of our calming energy is. So lots of scratches and strokes on the belly rub and on this chest plate right here are going to relax your dog and help them to enjoy this a lot more. Your goal is for your dog's paws not to be straight out like Super Dog, for them to be floppy over and nice and loose. We want our dogs to be nice and relaxed. The point of settling is not just to teach them how to be handled all over, but also how to teach them to bring down their energy on demand. This is especially important for puppies and a lot of dogs that are more high-strung that tend to run really hot all the time and don't really get opportunities to calm down on their own. This helps to teach them how to calm down and bring that whole energy down. You're basically just going to start telling your dog to settle in that soothing voice and giving nice, soft scratches, looking for that relaxation. As soon as your dog is relaxed, that's when you're going to want to let them up. We basically want to teach them the faster they go limp, the faster they relax, the faster they get to move on to other things. But just like anything in dog training, you can always do it again. I always joke and say, like shampoo, you can rinse and repeat. So you're going to want to practice this behavior several times a day. Just small, little, short sessions. You're basically looking for your dog to relax. Now, if your dog doesn't go completely limp like Caroline does, that's pretty normal, especially when you're first starting out. So take any kind of basically getting a little bit calmer as success and just move from there. So even if my dog started out stiff and then all of a sudden I felt their paws kind of relax, then I would go ahead and let up, letting that reinforcement be coming for that relaxation. You can also use food if you need to, particularly if your dog is really, really nervous about it. Having treats with you here in your little handy dandy pouch, and you can always give food for being in this position. There you go, Caroline, good girl. Or you can even have a partner also hand out food while you're doing your handling. Once your dog is nice and relaxed and basically laying there nice and loose and floppy, then we can start upping the ante and practicing things that are going to be more like the things that our vet and our groomer is going to do. So we want to do things like touching the toes. As you can see, that makes her a little bit nervous. Opening up ears and doing our pretend vet exam in our ears. Looking at the teeth, just like our groomers and our vet techs would do when they clean the teeth. And I always like to do like one little weird thing and then some nice soft pets. And then another little weird thing and nice soft pets. And then look in our ears and nice soft pets. Good girl, good settle. You want to give lots of reinforcement, lots of praise while you do this, handling all over. Our goal is for our dogs to learn that being handled in all these ways is no big deal and that they should trust us, that not necessarily is anything bad going to happen just because somebody touches your feet. I don't want Caroline to think every time someone touches her feet, it means that we get out nail trimmers. Or every time somebody touches her ear, we're going to put in ear cleaner. Basically, our goal is for our dogs to get so used to these kind of touches that when we finally do have to do those things, it's no big deal. All right, once that's going pretty well, then our next move is to start moving the feet around, bringing our ears around, doing a lot of massage. You can also start introducing some of the tools that you might be using. In other words, you could bring over your nail trimmers and start just bringing them close to your paw in between these nice little sessions. Or maybe if you've got a dog that doesn't particularly like being brushed, you can get your brush out and start introducing the brush. If your dog's wiggly in any way, basically you just want to hold on, wait until they relax, and then we're going to let our dog go. So the idea is calm and relaxation is what gets us up and out of the behavior, not wiggling and struggling. If your dog is struggling at all, you're basically just going to hold on, kind of give them more of a body hug until they relax a little bit, and then you're going to go ahead and let up. And our goal is to practice this maybe a few minutes each day. A lot of times I like to practice it in front of the television at night. I'll sit in front of my sofa area, put Caroline on my lap, or with my big dog, I used to get on the floor with him, and we would just do a little bit of this handling each day. You're going to find that as time goes on, it gets easier and easier as you and your dog get really used to it. Remember to keep your energy calm while you're doing it. If you get very high-strung and anxious, that's going to make your dog anxious as well. So really think of yourself like you're the doggy hypnotist. Try to bring your breathing down. Try to really relax yourself so that you can help your dog to relax better. And that's the settle for this week. Thanks, you guys. Okay, today's segment, what we're going to work on today, is a behavior called the name game. Now, the name game is a lot of fun. It's almost like playing a little bit of hide-and-go-seek with your dog, but it has some practical applications as well. So what the name game is really about is teaching our dogs to respond to their name, which is sort of the beginning of our come when called behavior. Now, it's not exactly come when called because we're actually going to teach our dogs just to turn their head whenever they hear their name, which sounds really simple and really basic, but it's actually really important. There's going to be a lot of times in your training journey when you're going to want to just get your dog's attention back up on you without having them necessarily come all the way to you. So the name game is actually going to help to reinforce this concept. So it's the idea that when our dog hears their name, all they have to do is turn their head and look at you. It's as if you tapped them on the shoulder and said their name and you just wanted them to turn and like say what. Basically, that's what our name game is going to be. The reason I make that distinction is because sometimes when you're working on different behaviors, like maybe a stay, imagine you're in the park, you're doing a really nice stay with your dog, everything's going really, really well, they're staring at you, everything's going perfect, all of a sudden they see a squirrel. We want to be able to get our dog to bring their eyes back up to us without interrupting that stay, which a lot of times if their name means to come to you, you can see where that problem will start to fall in. Because now you're calling your dog's name, your dog is getting up, coming over to you, breaking that beautiful stay. So the name game is really going to just reinforce this idea of just eyes up on you. Eye contact is also very important because, as I'm sure you can realize, anytime you're trying to teach somebody something, you need to have their full attention. So we're also teaching them to focus. And focus with eye contact is something a little different for dogs. Typically in the dog world, eye contact is a way of announcing a threat. A lot of our dogs, in an effort to be polite to us, don't really make great eye contact. This can especially be really important when you have a dog that's very insecure or very reactive towards eye contact. So this can be a really important behavior to help kind of build that confidence and build that bond that making eye contact with us is okay and it's a good thing. So basically our plan is going to be what I call a little bit of ambush training. So you're going to get some treats, you're going to have them hidden in your pocket or someplace where your dog doesn't actively see that you have food. Basically what you're going to do now is kind of stalk them in your house. You can play this game in your backyard like I'm playing with Caroline, or you can play it in your living room or any place in your home. Basically any place where your dog can be free rein and not have to be on a leash or on a tether. The idea is to let our dog get a little bit distracted so that they're not paying perfect attention to us, kind of sneak up on them, this is why I call it ambush training, and all you're going to do is just say their name. What you're searching for is for them to turn their head and look towards you. As soon as they do that, we're going to go to our dog and we're going to give our dog a treat. So it isn't about our dog coming to us yet. That's going to come later when we start talking about come when called and our recall words. But right now, this is just teaching them to turn and look and pay attention anytime they hear the magic word, which is going to be their name. So if I were playing it right now with my dog right over here, I'm basically going to sneak up on her a little bit. I'm already within pretty close range, so I'm probably not going to have to sneak up too much. And I'm just going to say her name, Caroline. As soon as Caroline turns and looks to me, I'm going to go and give her a treat. It's just as simple as that. Then what I'm going to do is wait for her to get distracted again and play the game again. So in just a few minutes, I'll show you in a couple of different locations how to play the game. Okay, so here's a perfect example. So Sammy's over here sniffing the ground. He's not really paying much attention. I'm just going to sneak up on him. Sammy! Sammy! Good. As you can see, I did a little bit of a sound trigger. And that's an important thing to know. You don't want to repeat your dog's name too many times. You basically don't want to teach them to have to hear a big long sentence of the name call. You ideally want to say their name just one time. If they don't turn and look, what you're going to do is some other kind of a novel sound. In my case, I typically do the kissy noises. And then once they turn and look for that, we're going to go ahead and give our treat then. Don't worry about having to make that noise trigger because eventually what's going to happen is your dog is going to start to pair it all together. Dogs are all about let's cut out the middleman. So once Sammy realizes that Sammy then follows the kiss noise and then he gets food, pretty soon he's going to start eliminating that need to hear that kiss noise and just turning and looking right when he hears his name. Well, Caroline, good girl. So it's just as simple as that. Caroline, good girl. Sammy, good boy, Sam. Good boy. You can actually play this game anywhere. You can do it in your house, you can do it outside as we did earlier. What's important to note is that you'll probably only get to do 1, maybe 2 reps at a time before your dog realizes you have food and then starts following you around staring at you. So ideally, like I said, you want to do this as kind of an ambush type of training where you basically have treats in your pocket, let your dogs forget that you have food, just kind of go about your business, let them go about their day, and find little moments in your day when you can all of a sudden just say their name, and when they turn and look, you're going to go ahead and reward them. I guarantee after about a week of this, if you just do this once or twice a day, you're going to have a dog that anytime you say its name, it turns and looks with a lot of interest. Caroline. Good girl.